Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jesse, and I basically got no sleep last night, so today I decided that it would be perfect to film my March wrap-up. I'm probably going to regret this. It is not a good idea for me to film on no sleep, because who knows what's gonna come out my mouth? Who knows? We're gonna find out together today. It's gonna be a wild ride. I can't wait for it. I actually can wait for the ride. We can wait for the ride for a while. But anyway, today I'm bringing you my March wrap up, and I thought that I would do it in a different format. Not really that different of a format, but I'm gonna do rapid fire rankings of all my reads in the month of March. It was not March last month, was it? It was April. I'm gonna be going through these books in best to worst order, which maybe I should do it the other way around. Worst to best, but I'm sticking with best to worst because I want to talk about the good stuff and then move my way to the bad eggs. Anyway, I've got quite a few books to go over today. Let's get started. I'm gonna drown myself in coffee real quick, as if this will help. This will probably make things worse. And yet here I am, chugging it down. Chug, chug, chug. First up here, we've got the Dead Fathers Club. This is a loose Hamlet retelling. In it, we are following an 11-year-old boy whose father has passed away, and his father comes back to him as a ghost and asks him to murder his murderer. The murderer in question is the boy's uncle. Obviously, the boy is very young. Not only is he panicking over the fact that his dad is appearing to him as a ghost, but he's also panicking over the fact that now he's got to go execute his uncle. I really enjoyed this book, and I went into it a little bit hesitant because I've read a book by Matt Haig, The Midnight Library, and I really didn't like that book. So going into this book, I was just like, let's just go in with low expectations. Don't expect too much, but I really ended up enjoying it. And might I just say that I am not like all the other girls, because a lot of people on Goodreads hate this book, apparently. Not necessarily hate it, but they give it low ratings, and I decided to show up to the book rating party with an unpopular opinion. But I really enjoyed this book. It reads like a middle grade book, but it has adult themes. So I would say if you're somebody that misses middle grade books, but wants more mature themes being explored, I would definitely recommend checking out this book. I really enjoyed the audiobook as well. I listened to it while I read the book. There were some interesting format bits that were brought into this book that I still feel were a little bit unnecessary. The author will just kind of break up words in a fun way. This little bit that's broken up, tick, tock, tick. And while I was reading the book, I was like, these feel really pointless to the book. They're not really adding anything. But then when I picked up the audiobook and started listening while reading, those things started to kind of make more sense for the audiobook. It was expressed in a way that was really fun. If you know the story of Hamlet, this book obviously reflects that book rather closely. So the chaos that happens in Hamlet also happens in here. Definitely the best book that I read in March. And by March, I mean April. My God. I'm really glad that I decided to get down. I'm really glad that I decided to give Matt Haig another chance, and I really want to see him do an actual middle grade book, because obviously this one is not a middle grade book. It feels like a middle grade book, but it explores adult themes, but I just would like to see him write a middle grade book after reading this one. Next on my list goes to Pachinko. This is the second best book that I read in the month of April, though I did start this one in March and it bled over into April because it was a rather thick read. It took me quite some time to get through it, but I ended up really enjoying it. We're following this family through different generations during the conflict between Japan and Korea, and if you love historical fiction, you will eat this book up. I really enjoyed the historical elements of this book. To be honest, going into this book, I didn't know much about the conflicts between Korea and Japan. I would say I knew the gist of it, but I didn't know that much, so that aspect was really nice for me as somebody who didn't really know that much about that time in history. Mind you, I'm not saying you should take this book and use it as a history book to know everything there is to know about that time. It's definitely important to do your own research, but it was just nice to be exposed to a topic that I wasn't super familiar with. And the family element of the story I really loved. I think that I have realized that I'm somebody who loves family sagas. I need to read more books that feature family sagas because I really enjoy it. I love the drama, the conflict, the complexities. I love the secrets. Just so good, so good, so good. It's an incredibly layered story, and there's so many hard-hitting things that happen throughout this book. It's definitely not a happy-go-lucky fun time read. It's a book you have to walk through cautiously, knowing that it's going to really tug at your heartstrings. There's going to be quite a few details in the book that's going to make you uncomfortable, but ultimately it's going to make you think and explore these really tough issues head on. And I really appreciated that about this book. And something that I really loved is the realness quality. Like, obviously it's historical fiction, so it's going to kind of come off as a little bit more real in terms of like feeling like you're reading about real people. But I just loved that quality to it. Reading about this family, it just felt like I was reading about real people. And it was just a wild ride following them through all these challenges that they faced. If you love historical fiction, stories about complex families, and you want to learn more about the conflicts between Japan and Korea, I definitely recommend checking this book out. Let me know down below in the comments if you guys have any book recommendations for me that are similar to Pachinko in that they follow a family. Give me some family saga recommendations. Next on my ranking, I think goes to Masters of Death by Olivia Blake, another author I'm glad that I gave a second chance to. The pitch for this book is that we are following, I did not mean to just slap that so aggressively. I'm sorry. The elevator pitch for this book is that we are following a vampire real estate agent who needs to rid a house of a spirit in order to sell it. But just know that it blows up into so much more. Like, that is just kind of the jumping off point. I feel like this book definitely opened up my eyes a little bit more to Olivia Blake, because I had only had sort of negative feelings towards her books just because I read the Atlas 6 and just had such a tough time with it, which I'm going to try to put that to rest and stop talking about the fact that I did not enjoy the Atlas 6. I know that I've talked about it a lot, but like, that book just betrayed me. I was so excited about it, and then it just came through and stabbed me in the back. That hurt. Why did I just do that so aggressively? I'm being so aggressive today. Calm down, simmer down. But I feel like this book just really opened up my eyes to the potential that she has, and I'm very excited to give more of her books a chance down the line. I think that I do have to go into her books with a certain mindset with what I'm getting, because even this book was not perfect. I felt like this book kind of dragged quite a bit, and also is really built up on character dialogue, which I actually liked. I liked the fact that it was built up on character dialogue. I felt like oftentimes the conversations between characters weren't necessarily moving the plot forward, which would not be a bad thing if it was like happening every now and then, but there's like long periods where not a lot of like plot progression is happening through these conversations that are happening. It just feels like everything is at a standstill, and that really causes the pacing to just be like completely jacked up and not really move the story forward. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. It was a little bit confusing at times. I loved the vibes, the atmosphere, the writing. I feel like that's where Olivia Blake really succeeds for me. I'm excited to try out more of her books in the future, but again, I think I just have to be like very intentional on which books by her I pick up. If you are somebody who loves books for the characters alone, like you're not necessarily somebody that like gets invested in the plot, you just want some characters to gush over, might I recommend checking out this book. Like, this book is perfect for you. Next on my list, I think, goes to Wayward. I was surprised by how much I ended up enjoying this book. In this book, we are following 3 different perspectives from 3 different time periods. We're following Kate, who is fleeing an abusive relationship, Alpha, who is awaiting trial for murder, and Violet, who has had information surrounding her mother withheld from her, and Violet decides that she is going to, like, look into the secrets behind her mother and what happened to her mom, and we follow her on that journey. Violet was my favorite perspective in this book. I really loved following her story. The other 2 perspectives were great as well, but it just like took time for me to like get really invested in their stories. I will say that this is a very graphic book. Like, there's a lot of trigger warnings. There's sexual assault, there's rape, there's abuse, and probably more, honestly. So if you're thinking about picking up this book, definitely check out the trigger warnings first. I feel like there's several messages in this book, but the ones that were like the strongest to me were kind of taking back your power, and then also just like how we continue to fail women time and time again. And it is just a rather heavy book. I'm not going to sit here and say that it explores these messages in a really strong way. Like, I know that there have been a lot of mixed feelings surrounding this book. Overall, I really liked it. It wasn't perfect. It's very slow going. It takes its time. Again, I only really found myself invested in one character at the start, and then it took time to kind of wrap myself around the other characters. But once I got there, I was in it. I will say that I also went into this book expecting it to be like a full-on witchy book, and like there are definitely like some witchy elements, and I loved some of the like magical things that come into play, but for the most part, it's not about witches. If you go into this one expecting it to be a full-on fantasy story, you'll be mistaken. I definitely had to like shift my perspective as I was reading it, because I was afraid that like my expectations of the book were going to have me not enjoying it. But once I shifted my mindset, I ended up really enjoying this book. If you love weaving storylines, you don't mind books taking their time, and can wade your way through kind of heavier topics, I would recommend checking out this book. I feel like the next one on my ranking would have to go to Look What You Made Me Do, which was a library book. In this book, we are following the sister of a serial killer who ends up getting roped into helping her sister dispose of the bodies, which is already a messy position to be in, but now our main character is being blackmailed, and so things just get messier and messier and messier. There were definitely moments in this book where I had had to suspend my disbelief. It reminded me a little bit of Finley Donovan in the fact that like you're constantly having to suspend your disbelief while reading those books. This one was much different than Finley Donovan, but just that element reminded me of it. I think the complex sister element was such a fascinating element in the story. I am really self-conscious in talking about like mystery thriller books. I've really only touched the surface with this genre. I'm not an expert by any means, but I really liked the direction of this one. There were moments when I was surprised. There were reveals that happened at different times when I was not expecting them to happen, and it was just an overall fun, wild ride. I say fun, but it like is a little bit more on the thrilling side of things. So overall, a good time. That's what my rating is. A good time out of 5 stars. Next up on my ranking, I would say Call It What You Want by Bridget Kimmerer. This follows 2 characters who are facing different scandals, and they end up in a group project that brings them closer together. This one I went into a little bit hesitant because I don't do well with YA romances. Like, they are not my jam. But I love Bridget Kimmerer, so I was excited to read another book by her, and turns out this one was fantastic. I mean, it's not perfect, but like the element of it that I was the most kind of fearful of, the romance itself, I ended up really enjoying in this book. Like, it was not overwhelming at all, which is why I feel like I avoid a lot of YA romances, because the romance just is so overwhelming. It's just a lot. It's just very mushy-gushy, and I just can't really do that, especially because they're very fast-moving. Like, the characters will lock eyes, and the next thing you know, they're like trying to walk down the aisle to say I do, and it's like, bruh, y'all are 16. Chill. Chill. This one just was like much more of a slow burn situation, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked following their personal journeys as well, because they are both going through it. They are both put in the ringer, and I loved seeing them just kind of like figure things out separately, but then also together. I will say that I wasn't the most satisfied with the ending, because like the ending kind of has like an explosion of things happening, and I just felt like it wasn't tied up in a very satisfying way. Like, it just felt very rushed at the end. I was like, can we just take an extra 20 pages just to breathe and settle things up? There were also moments when I had to like hold myself back from screaming at the characters because of some of the decisions that they were making. I'm like, you are bringing chaos into your life, stop it! But like, obviously that like makes an exciting book sometimes when characters make dumb decisions, so. Next on my list, we've got Normal People by Sally Rooney. In this book, we follow a situationship between Connell and Marianne, who are vastly different people, but as you know, opposites attract. And we follow them for a long period of time. This book kind of jumps around in terms of the time stamps. You're jumping back and forth between different times, which for some people I feel like might be a little bit confusing. I actually really enjoyed that style. It wasn't too difficult for me to like keep track of everything. And then also like, I just loved the pacing because it like just moved the story in such a fast way. And I love that. And I really enjoyed the personal journeys that both Marianne and Connell were going through, and then also seeing their own difficulties. Even though there were times when I just wanted them to communicate, the miscommunication element of this book just like made me so tired. I'm already tired, and it made me even more tired. I will say that I just don't necessarily feel like I vibe that well with Sally Rooney's writing style. It's very dry, bland, mundane. That's what you guys said was like the nice way to put boring, is mundane, so that's what it is. It's very mundane, and I just don't know that I connect that well with the writing style. There's also times where it's like borderline pretentious, and I really don't do well with pretentious. And I honestly just didn't leave it feeling wowed. Like, truthfully, I just felt like it was kind of average. Which is why it's like so low on my ranking. Next on my ranking, we've got Bloodmarked. I was too lazy to find the dust jacket, so Bloodmarked, this is the book. I need sleep. This is the second boin. Somebody put me to bed. This is the second book in the This is the second book, and this is the second book in the Legendborn series. I really loved Legendborn, and this one was a bit of a letdown for me. I was enjoying it at the start, but then things just kind of like took a turn, and it just did not hit in the same way that Legendborn hit. In the first book, we follow Bree, who finds out about a secret society called Legendborn after witnessing a magical attack on her campus. The positive things about this book, I still really enjoyed the writing style. I still like love Bree, even though one of my complaints is that she felt a little bit out of character. Like, she just did not feel the same to me, which I know that she's like going through a different thing in this book, but it just still, I don't know, there was just something off. And then I loved the side characters. Oh my god, the side characters honestly saved this book for me. I don't know that I would have DNF'd it, but I feel like I probably would have not liked it as much had the side characters not delivered, not carried, and they did just that. So thank you, side characters, for coming through. It just started to fall into second book syndrome. Also partially did not meet my expectations, to be honest, because I feel like leaving Legendborn, like the expectations are up here. obviously it's going to be hard to meet those expectations. So partially it's my fault why this is so low on my rankings, but I still think I rated it somewhat highly. Like I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5 stars, which is not bad. I just wanted it to be another banger, and it wasn't a banger. Ow! Squished my thumb. The next book on my list is Squeak, a balloon animal romance. I did a full reading vlog of myself reading this book and reacting to the absurdity. It's basically about this girl who ends up meeting these 2 boys, and they need her to save them from turning back into their balloon form. I've had a really fun time exploring these like really weird romance books lately, and this one is definitely lower on my rankings in terms of like the weird romance books that I've read recently. It flowed weird. The ending was very rushed. There's like this villainous character, though I guess this is a spoiler. I guess I can't go there. And then I just felt like the main unexpected plot twist just didn't make any sense to me. Like there was just no groundwork for the plot twist happening, and I would have preferred there have been more groundedness to that twist. Woo! Okay, the last book on my list is a library book. This is my least favorite book of the month of April. And that book is Wonderland. In this book, we are following a couple that moves their family from the busy city to the country, and weird things begin happening on their property. I feel like this is one of those books where it just like feels like you're constantly being led on. Like the author will like build you up and think something like wild is about to happen, and then it just falls off. It builds up without ever reaching the punch. I also personally just felt like I never hit a point where I connected to the characters. Like I never cared about them. And it's hard to read a thriller-esque horror book and care about what's happening to these characters when you don't care about the characters. So that was also a bit of an issue. There's also this like little girl character that was just like so annoying throughout the book and just made the book miserable. Pair that all with just like a very dry, straightforward writing style, and it just was not a good time for me. Those are all the books that I read in the month of April and my ranking from best to worst. Let me know down below in the comments if you guys have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them. I would love to hear from you guys. I will also be listing all the vlogs that some of these books came from, because a lot of these books were in vlogs of mine. So if you want to hear more thoughts on these books, then definitely go and check out the vlogs that they came from. I also want to hear how your reading month went, so let me know down below in the comments how many books you got to in the month of April, some of your favorite books, some of your least favorite books. Give me all the tea down below in the comments. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe, or go and hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye. Yeah. I'm gonna get some sleep now. So good night, everybody. Good night.